Okay. Hello, everybody. And welcome to not sponsored by Hop Water, but my partner just introduced me to these. Well, I guess reintroduced me to these. Okay, Hop Water. Really great. Non-alcoholic, blood orange flavored hop water. So I guess it's not, it's a sparkling hop water. So anyways, hi, this is Save to Watch Later. It's a podcast. And my name is Chase. Thank you for tuning in. This is one of my more clickbaity episodes, I guess, because there's just like things going on and I'm like, oh, I'd like to talk about that. That sounds fun. This is very much like, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it's categorized on like whatever websites and like podcast hosts. It's distributed as a personal journal podcast because that is first and foremost what it is. But anyways, so we're back this week with episode 3. Who would have thought we'd be here? Not me. After the first episode, I was like, I'll see you guys in a few weeks. And then I saw you in 1 week. After the second episode, I said, I'll see you in a few weeks. And we're here 1 week later. So it feels good. I definitely will not be back next week. Mark my words. That is like, I am out of town on a trip, but I will be back the week after that. Not that anyone's paying that much attention. So yeah, today is February 9th. My birthday was last weekend. It was a good time. I'm a little distracted because a lot is happening. Blake Charles, my partner, is outside. My dog is right here. Normally, I like to have a blank slate. I like to be alone when I'm working. So like she's usually in like a daycare for a couple hours and Blake is usually at his apartment. But one of the things I was reading in my book, the one that I read, one of my things I was reading with Rick Rubin, he was like, yeah, one of the excuses creative people make for themselves that will like lower their output, not only terms in obvious like quantity, but their quality and like way of working, is one of the excuses is like, I can only work under like these conditions, or I can only do this if like this is like this. And so that's one thing I decided to challenge with myself today. It's already a little bit difficult, but we're working through it. Anyway, birthday was last weekend. Super fun. Great weekend. Today I went to a record shop down the street, bought myself my first Criterion Collection DVD, only because it's like my very favorite movie, one of my very, very favorite movies of all time, and that's Moon Age Daydream. I talked about it in the first episode. And I had a gift card, and then I was like, felt so guilty using the gift card at the record shop because it's like an independent small business. I'm using a gift card, but the only reason I had that gift card is because I sold them a bunch of my records, which they're making money off of, and they gave me some cash back for it. And I don't know, am I the only one that like? It's so bad because it's like I should just use the gift card. There's like a lot of money on that gift card, but I feel so bad using it at like a local biz. Anyway, another thing too I wanted to introduce at the top of the show is this little patch of grass. I haven't gotten that much feedback on this show, to be honest, and that's okay. I'm not really looking for it. But one thing I've noticed, like just through uploading, I'm like, I feel like I can get really serious just because like I'm by myself, right? Like recording by myself, you don't have like a co-partner to keep things, like a co-host, like I have Bingo Bronson and now I have my dog, but you don't have anyone to sort of like keep things bumping, keep things moving along and keep things like lighthearted. So I'm introducing this patch of grass to sort of keep things lighthearted and remind myself, hey, touch grass. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about was Miss Gina Carano. As someone who used to be on Twitter, I'm formally a blockee of Gina Carano. And I did wear that with a badge of pride. But I wanted to talk about this because like, especially after like being offline for a while, I don't know. From the very beginning with Gina Carano, I never thought she was fired for what she was saying. She was fired because she was bad PR. She was bad for business because it was the shit she was like saying, while I don't agree with it, like it just was like bad press. If you Googled anything about The Mandalorian, it would only come up with like inflammatory posts and like people's reactions to those online. And I think that Lucasfilm probably got fucking sick of that, because they probably just want you to Google Mandalorian and see like great reviews of it or like all these other things. They don't want all the bad press. So it's like, listen, I also want to say, like, if I met Gina Carano, she'd probably be pretty nice. I don't think she's a bad person necessarily. I think that we probably don't agree on a lot of things, but do I think she's like a black heart? Probably not. It would be weird for me to assume either way. So I'm actually not even going to answer that question. I do not pretend to know if Gina Carano's a homie or not, because I've never met her. But I do imagine if I were to meet her, she'd probably be fine. I don't know. I don't think she would like hate me as like a queer non-binary person. I do think that like the discourse that she was creating online was incredibly like harmful, and I don't think that she was like a particularly open person in terms of adjusting her behavior. But then like I think about like oh God, I'm so sorry, you guys. If you don't know the story, I should probably just start with fucking that. I should probably just say Hollywood Reporter. February 6th, Winston Cho writes, Gina Carano sues Disney over Mandalorian firing and lawsuit funded by Elon Musk. Okay. So between like that headline and I'm going to talk about Apple Vision Pro, it's like the category for this episode is a little dystopian, because this is just crazy, you guys. This is all so crazy. I'll just read this. In an escalation of a standoff over her firing from The Mandalorian, Gina Carano is suing Disney and Lucasfilm for discrimination and wrongful termination in a lawsuit that opens another front in the battlefield for influence over Hollywood that is drawn in corporate America. Carano alleges she was fired for voicing right-wing opinions on social media and seeks a court order that would force Lucasfilm to recast her. Okay, already? I don't really know what the plan is, because like to force yourself to be recast sounds incredibly uncomfortable. I also, again, like I don't think she was fired for voicing right-wing opinions. I don't think that. I think she just was antagonistic, which is not, I'm not passing judgment on her for that. I think she was antagonistic in the topic she decided to either cover or question or incite on her social media platforms. And I think that is what got her fired. It is not the fact that she had different points of view. I think that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of celebrities out there that probably have POVs that would get them quote unquote canceled, right? But they also have like a little bit more of, respectfully, a savvy and an intelligence to not constantly post about it online, because they know it's bad for business. I am not making an assessment on that, but that is how I have experienced, the entertainment industry as just a random consumer. Anyway, Elon Musk making good on a promise to foot the legal bill for users who claim they've been discriminated against due to their activity on his platform is helping fund the suit through X. Some people online are like, wow, like Elon Musk is like knight in shining armor, like fight the good fight. But it's like, no, he just has a lot of money and he's just going to, guarantee he is not involved with it. He's just fucking paying for it. And again, I don't think the lawsuit is going to go very far, because I don't think she was fired for having conservative points of view. Anyways, you guys can read more about this, but I just kind of just want to like touch on it for a second, because it was you gotta go to the sources. You gotta go and read all of her posts, because some of them are much more gnarly than other ones, and they date back to like 2020, maybe 2019. Like there's articles that archive all the tweets, and you can read them for yourself. But basically, I think she just was bad for business. I don't really know. I don't really want to get into like more of like the literal things she said, but like I said, you could have Googled Mandalorian without finding things about her. I also want to make it very, like, something I was talking about with my partner the other day. It's like, as someone who's been called a shill many times, as someone who has friends who's been called shills many times, And as someone who's like watched some like Disney vloggers and be like, damn, they're like shilling hard for Disney right now, like the theme park industry. When, you know, I might have a different opinion. I would never comment that on someone's thing, by the way. But I just mean like, I'm like, I've had that thought before. But what's so funny is like people who like come for someone for like shilling out of love, people who make their platforms hating on something are also shills. They are literally two sides of the same coin. They are shilling hard for a company, and they're writing that company so hard that they like came up with this entire like noble purpose of like defending it and reclaiming it and like crazy shit. So I just wanted to bring that up too for some reason. Anyways, the polarization in online space, I do think the internet kind of is ruining things a little bit. I think social media is ruining things a little bit. I think it's ruining our culture a little bit. Because I think about the pronouns in bio that Gina Carano did. Basically, you know, people were like, Gina, put pronouns in your bio, put pronouns in your bio, put pronouns in your bio. First and foremost, like, fans are crazy. So Gina needs to know this. Fans are crazy. So yeah, you're gonna get harassed for put pronouns in your bio, and you have the ability to say no, I'm not doing that. But because she was experiencing what she claims was harassment for putting pronouns in her bio, she just put beep boop bop, you know, droid noises in her bio, because that was her way of like sticking it to people who are like forcing her to do things. And I do understand to a point this idea of like, I hate this, I'm being forced to do this, right? And it's one of those things with culture where it's like, I don't know if like I don't know if culture is going to grow past that. Like maybe we'll just learn to live with it, and people like with platforms will learn to live with like, just let fans be fanatic and just like be annoying, because that's literally their job. It's to consume shit and be annoying. I say that as a fan of things. You know, I watch something and I'm like, oh, I fucking hated this, and this, and this, and this. I mean, I don't take to Twitter about it anymore, thank God. But, you know, a fan's job is to be annoying. And a fan is going to be political, right? So some fans aren't going to give a shit about pronouns in bio. Some fans are going to care a lot about it. And some fans like me, it's like, if someone doesn't want to put pronouns in their bio, that's on them. That is their decision. That is their decision. I'm not going to force them to do that. Now, do you have to be like an asshole about it and put beep boop bop? No. I don't think you have to do that either. I don't think that's very nice. So again, like, I'm not like defending Gina Carano. I'm also not attacking her. I'm just saying, dude, I don't think that you got fired for expressing conservative points of view. It's just, yeah, at the end of the day, I just consider her, I mean, again, I'm sure she'd be nice, but I just don't think she's very bright. And I think she likes to play the victim. And I think for someone like that, you know, to have that combination of not being the brightest crayon in the crayon box, and then also like liking to be a victim and having that as part of your identity to cling on to, it's a bad mix. It's a bad mix for anyone. So, yeah, Bob Iger, like, recently asked Bob Iger what he thought about it. He's like, they're like, do you have any thoughts on the Gina Carano lawsuit? And he said none, which I'm sure he's not going to lose sleep over. I mean, Disney has, I'm sure, a massive legal team. And also, I think it's pretty clear that she got fired for being bad for business. And that's another thing too that I want, like, more like maybe liberal people. Like, it's like Disney wasn't cool for firing her because like they weren't standing up for like trans rights by firing Gina Carano. They weren't standing up for BIPOC people and queerness. Like they just fired her because she's bad for business. So we can't like romanticize really any part of it, especially because we don't know any of it. We're not in the board meetings. We're not we're not a part of the cast of The Mandalorian, but it's like, it's so goofy. I would never be like, wow, Disney, you did that. You fired her. Good job. Because, well, they didn't do it because they actually cared about what she was saying. They did it because she was bad for business. And I also wouldn't be like, ugh, I don't know. The whole thing is just wild. And I think that the more we live, the more we like push our own like politics onto people. I mean, it's just, you're going to push someone further away. Think about it. It's like when you're in a fight with someone and you just keep digging in your point again and again and again and again and again, eventually they're just going to fucking like resent you and just be like, no, you know what? You make no sense because you won't shut up. You know what I mean? And that goes on both sides. I just think one side pushing out another side is going to push that person to extreme. Like instead of like maybe like not pushing her so hard, like to add pronouns to her bio, maybe she would be more open to the idea if we didn't just push it. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then if we're going to cancel her, which listen, again, I do not agree with her. I do not agree with what she's posted. But if like there is a mob mentality around harassing the shit out of someone, they're going to go to where they're welcomed, and they are going to feel more welcome in conservative spaces. And that because people in conservative spaces can bond over that. And it's just a symptom of a sick culture where, I don't know, if you want someone to agree with your politics, maybe relax and picture like the real life people involved, the nuances to things. I'm not saying the nuances to her post. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying the nuances to someone's lived experience and why that might inform their politics in a way that is layered and multifaceted. Gina Carano, everyone. Those are my thoughts on Gina Carano. Also, Apple Vision Pro, speaking of crazy little world we live in, Apple Vision Pro came out. It's been really fun to watch all the reviews. It's been crazy to see some of like the people wearing it in real life. I cannot, oh my God, I would never wear it in real life. Not because I would be embarrassed, but because I'd be fucking scared that someone would just beat the shit out of me and take it or break it, or I don't know. Would not like that. So I would not wear it in public. But, you know, some people find it to be a real scary dystopian thing. I don't think it's very dystopian. To me, it's like, you know, when I'm walking the dog and I see someone just glued to their phone walking around the streets on like the most beautiful day. We've had the most beautiful weather this week. When I see someone doing that, I'm like, oh, that's the same thing as someone walking down the street with the Vision or whatever they're called, Vision Pro. It's the same thing as someone just texting and walking. They're just texting and walking with something on their head. So it's more of like a visual affront. You know, it's more accosting on my experience, but I don't see it as like some dystopian thing. It's the same thing as, you know, walking and texting. I also am like I might be a little delusional. I'm kind of living in this place of, I think that the product's ahead of its time, not in terms of like pushing the envelope. I mean, I think it's cool. It seems like a great prototype. It just seems like the market isn't ready for something like this. And I don't think that they're going to be able to create a version of it that is advanced and also cheaper to where it's like consumer friendly and people actually want it. I think it's ahead of its time in terms of like, I don't think people really want it right now. I think maybe like teenagers or young adults or like people who are like really passionate about technology. Like it seems like a great toy. It seems like a lot of fun to use, but it's like your average person, I don't think is going to like want to have it, especially at that price point. So I kind of think that like it'll be a long time before it starts feeling dystopian, or it'll phase out. I mean, completely. So we'll see. I think it's an interesting at the very least, but what's never interested me is like putting my fucking iPhone on my eyeballs and using it like that. That is not interesting to me. There are parts of it though that seem interesting. Like watching movies on it. Would love to watch a movie on that. I would love to watch a movie on that. I would love to watch TV on that, just like once or twice, just to like know what it feels like. I'd like to play some video games with it. That'd be kind of fun. But see, again, like outside of that, it's like I just kind of want it for like a toy. I want it as a toy. But I don't want to spend $4,000 for that toy. So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts on Apple Vision Pro. I guess I don't really have that much to say about it. I guess I have a lot more to say about Gina Carano than about fucking Apple Vision Pro. I do though think that like, I do kind of think though it's a little bit, I am wondering if our culture is going to get to a point where the human wins out, right? Like I used to like dream about us living in like a Renaissance time where every human is like, we are going back to like Renaissance. We are being reborn. We are centering the human experience and putting the technology to the side and focusing on what it is to be human. Oh, it'd be so fun, you guys. Let's just think about it. Just think about it. Pin it, you know, put it in the back of your head. If you want to start a Renaissance, let me know. It sounds so fun. But then I understand that there's probably people out there who like don't think that sounds fun. And what sounds more fun to them is like living in a cyber human space. And I love that. Slay. You know, it's just different. It's difference of opinions, different experiences. Related back to Gina Carano. If I wanted to, I could, but I don't. Wow, this is going to have to be a short episode. I'm talking fast. But look at, okay, even just having this grass here, I'm talking faster. My spirits are higher. I'm a little bit less serious because I really was getting serious on this podcast. Not that anybody listens to it. I mean, shout out if you're listening. Fucking real one right there. But yeah, it's funny. Like on episode 3 now, I'm already kind of like playing a little algorithm thing in my brain and kind of paying a little bit too much attention to numbers and like thinking, well, is this embarrassing? And yes, it is. But everything's embarrassing. To be human is embarrassing. I'd rather be like cringe as fuck and embarrassed as fuck than not live my life. And then also like I was like kind of nervous to talk about the Gina Carano stuff because I don't want to like piss people off in terms of like I don't want to piss off like scary like in like politically intense people. I don't want to like anger like any side of any equation. But if it's uncomfortable for people to listen to it, I think there's value in that. And I'm not trying to make people uncomfortable. I'm trying to make an uncomfortable conversation, which is, the uncomfortable conversation is, I have to burp. That's the thing about sparkling water on a podcast. Oh, sorry. The uncomfortable conversation is, okay, how can we get to a place culturally where we do hold each other accountable and we do work towards a more loving, inclusive space where everyone can feel, Gina Carano, she says, all I wanted to do is bring these things up to talk about. Well, from my point of view, like, this is why I genuinely do want like to have like public debates, I want like to have like 100 people in a room, maybe 100 people in the room and just talk, not to win or lose, but just to learn. Because it's, to me, I'm like, okay, Gina, you say that you just wanted to bring these things up, right? And just talk about it. It did not come across that way. It didn't come across as you wanted to talk about it. It came across as you wanted to like throw out some crazy fucking conspiracy theories and just dump on things. And that's what it came across as. So maybe there's feedback for her to glean from that, and maybe there's not. I don't know. But this idea of like the uncomfortable conversation is just sort of like trying to live in a more nuanced space, trying to live in a space where we can hold each other accountable, make spaces safe for everybody and respectful for other people, while holding people accountable, but also allowing people to learn, allowing people to evolve, allowing people to make mistakes. That's the uncomfortable conversation, I think. I'm trying to make it comfortable. Anyways, the Gina Carano thing, I think I just talked about it because it's just interesting. It's an interesting thing. It's kind of boring because it's just like another, the jaded part of me is just like, it's just another, well-off white woman who wants to like complain about being marginalized because she has differing points of view, when in reality she's being marginalized because she's just making people mad because she's acting in a way that's pretty like incendiary and inflammatory, which like if I went around being an asshole, I'd make people mad. They wouldn't be mad at me because of my political views. They'd be mad at me because I was being an asshole. So it's just like another one. And then like with the fucking Elon Musk bit, it's like it's not a bit. In a lot of ways it's a bit because this guy, whatever, I'm not getting into him. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's like a tale as old as time in 2023 at this point. I'm like kind of jaded to that whole idea of someone being like, but I think it's important to talk about in terms of pushing the conversation to maybe a little bit more of a middle ground, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the news. That's the news. Now on a more personalized bit, I signed up for an acting class. If there's anyone out there that regularly consumes my content, then you know that I used to work in theater and I grew up acting. I spent my whole life acting. I never wanted to do anything else. And then I started working in a more artistic director position and produced and directed and all that. And then during 2020, I was like, this shit sucks. The industry sucks. The way the industry responded to certain things happening in the culture sucked. It all was stupid, and I hated it, and it was awful. And now, you know, 3 or 4 years later, I'm kind of like, maybe I went a little too far away from it. Maybe I should go back to like what I actually loved to do, which was just sort of acting. And Ahsoka, hey, Ahsoka, come here. Sit. Good girl. Anyways, maybe I'll do an episode on like the theater industry on a whole, if anyone wants my ramblings on that. But I think it would be pretty boring unless you actually give a shit about that industry and hearing about it. But anyway, I don't really believe in acting, like training in acting and acting school. Ahsoka, if you knock that phone, Ahsoka Tano, come here. Lay down. Good girl. I love you. Thank you. I don't really believe in acting school. You know, I don't think you have to like learn it, but I'm just kind of going back to classes to sort of like reestablish a baseline with my relationship with it. And maybe this YouTube stuff is, maybe I only exist as a YouTuber because I'm not acting, and maybe I just need to act, you know, I don't know. So I'm taking a risk. I am seeing what the vibe is. I signed up for a class and I'm excited. You know, the number one thing I'm working on in life in general right now is like, I don't want to get jaded and about anything. And it's a hard thing because it's so easy to get jaded, and it's sad. You know what I mean? Like, I'm only 29. It's like, I could come up with like a long list of shit I'm just like jaded and kind of numb to. And I don't necessarily I kind of want to spend the rest of my life being turned on by things and being interested and curious by things and not being jaded by things. Because I think when we're jaded, we kind of stop learning and stop caring, and then that's when shit gets boring and sad. So yeah, I'm gonna try not to be jaded about the acting thing. I'm just going super optimistic, like, let's figure it out, let's get curious, let's figure out like what my relationship is with this thing. Obviously we'll keep the pod posted on like, because it's like, I don't know, I guess I wanted to follow up regarding like my own creative journey and my creative expression, because that's something I've talked a lot about on the podcast and on YouTube. So I kind of want to talk about that. So that's my little update. And I mean, that's kind of like, oh my God, how long have we been going? 30 minutes. Wow, this is a short episode. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I could talk about. Let's see. I'm going on a trip. Yeah. I guess I'll bring up one last thing, which is, what is this? Oh, actually, we're going to do a social media follow-up. It's been interesting since like posting that video about social media. I'm aware that some friends of mine that are on social media are watching that. And it was a very scary, vulnerable thing. And also, since being off social media, I've learned that like my relationships that did have like an online heavy interaction or like foundation, I'm like so insecure in those friendships now. Like, I'm so insecure. And like, I find myself seeking affirmation and approval from friends that like I was friends with online mainly. And like, now we're not friends online, but we're still friends and we still text. But like, now I'm like super fucking wigged out about those friendships. And I'm like, oh, I hope they still like me. I hope like we're so close. Like that, those friendships matter to me. But because I took out because I took out the online component, now I'm like insecure. And it's just an interesting thing. I don't really know if I have anything to like report on about it except for that. Like, that is something I'm experiencing currently, and that's interesting. Another thing too that I'm reading, the Rick Rubin. Another thing I'm learning about in the Rick Rubin book that really stuck out to me is this idea of like, you know, if you want to live a certain kind of life, you have to like make that adjustment in all these specific ways within your life and in your life as a whole in order to inform your life as a whole. So it's like, if I want to be more in touch with my creativity, I have to like have every moment be in service of my relationship with my creativity. So one thing I noticed, like, I have to stop doing, you guys, but it's so hard to stop doing. I have to stop watching so much YouTube. Like, you know, I'll get home from like running errands. I'll sit down with some lunch and I'll watch YouTube while I eat lunch. You know what I mean? But by doing that, I'm like disrupting my thought processes. I'm disrupting the way my brain's working, and I'm like just going to straight to consuming. So much of this has to do with consuming, and it's so interesting because like when I got back, I had physical therapy this morning, and I got back, and my brain was like chewing on things that I was thinking about, right? And then I went to eat lunch and I turned on YouTube and I noticed those thoughts start to get further and further away. And I was like, whoa, I want to keep those up here. But then I was like, I can't keep those up here while watching a YouTube video. So if I want to keep my fucking thoughts thoughting, then I have to turn off YouTube. So that's one thing I have to turn, that's an adjustment I have to make. But anyway, I've been kind of like thinking about that. And like another thing I really want to do is like, and I talked about in the first episode how I kind of would love to do an episode on like intensity, personality, certain like personality traits, and like how much of it is personality and how much of it is shit that you just have to like work on, right? So like one thing I've been working on is like I want to be a little less intense. I want to be more open. I want to be more curious, right? And so that's something I am currently working on. And so like right now I'm looking at every little thing in my life and I'm like, how do I become a little bit less intense on this one thing? And I try to do that as many times as I can, and hopefully the result will be a more open-minded, less intense experience, you know, sunrise to sunset. So those are things I'm thinking on right now. Probably those types of episodes are going to be coming out. You know, like I said, if anyone wants to hear about my thoughts on like theater education and theater industry, I can do that. I just don't know if the interest is there. I still kind of want to do my episode on Star Wars. And maybe after this Gina Carano video, you know, rant comes out, maybe I'll get into it, because I do think I have like a lot to say about Star Wars as an IP, Star Wars as, you know, as a company at Lucasfilm, and I have a lot of things to say about Star Wars fandom and my experience in it. And so I think that would be a cool episode. But again, looking for feedback in terms of, you know, what you guys want to hear. I want to make sure that people who are actually listening to the show hear shit they want to hear. Anyways, that's the vibe. Thank you guys for listening. Short ep, but good ep, right? If you like the ep, send it to a friend, rate the podcast, and leave a comment. So that's all. Love you guys. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.